He is our senator from the great state of Texas, and a presidential candidate in the GOP. Please welcome our good friend Ted Cruz. Senator Cruz, welcome back to the show.
Sam, good morning. It's always great to join you.
Good. Did you have trouble getting into Houston last night? I heard there may have been some travel delays.
Well, we were having our big end of the quarter fundraiser last night. It was packed, but as you know, there were storms and flooding, so my flight was diverted from Houston to Austin. But that was all right. We rented a car and drove in and drove through some rain and made it there. And I'll tell you, it was incredible. We had several hundred people come out to a packed event despite the rain, despite the flood. We actually sent out an email telling folks, stay home, stay safe, don't bother to come. And folks could not be dissuaded. That was the kind of energy and enthusiasm we saw last night and that we're seeing for the campaign all across the country.
That's fantastic. Ted Cruz with us. How's your life change? You getting any sleep? Are you in the same bed twice? Too much chicken dinner? What's it like?
I'm spending an awful lot of time on the road. There are a lot of mornings I wake up, I got to pick up the phone on the bedside table to remember what city I'm in.
It's like the Holiday Inn commercial, right? You right to be here, Cleveland?
and I will say this, I'm doing my very best to be a one-man stimulus program for the airline.
Are they taking good care of you on the airlines? Are you coming across Ted Cruz fans in when it comes to the flight attendants? Or are you getting any gruff or like, no peanuts for you, Senator?
I'll tell you, the reception when I travel is consistently positive. It's really remarkable, but both from flight attendants and captains and pilots of planes, but also from the passengers. I mean, it's really a wonderful thing where lots of folks ask to take pictures or want to say hello, or lots of folks just say thank you, or that they're praying for me and Heidi and the girls. And it's an amazing thing to be lifted up in prayer by so many thousands of Texans and people across the country. It gives us strength and comfort each and every day.
Amen to that. Well, I'm your biggest fan. When you threw your hat into the ring, I said, what? I said, look, I've known Ted a long time. We're not too close pals, but we've known each other. I've seen you on Tea Party stages going back to 2010 at Discovery Green.
Sure.
You were in jeans and a white shirt, and you went like 40 minutes and inspired me. That was like 5 years ago. And it takes a lot of energy, and you're an excellent word master when it comes to those who try to trap you, Senator Cruz. We saw it with Katie Couric. We saw it with that reporter in Beaumont. You're great at it. How do you do it?
Well, look, I mean, the reality is that the mainstream media, they're not objective, they're not fair, and they're not impartial. They are partisan. They are the Praetorian Guard protecting Barack Obama, and no one is more ready for Hillary than the mainstream media. And yet, look, I think the way to respond to them is to speak the truth and do it with a smile, and that is not something they're prepared for.
No.
As you know, I've got a new book that came out yesterday. It's called A Time for Truth, in which I try to lay out exactly what I just said, the truth of what's happening behind closed doors in the United States Senate. If you've ever wondered what happens in the Republican Senate lunches and leadership meetings, or for that matter, I also talk about my time clerking at the U.S. Supreme Court and litigating before the court. If you've ever wondered what happens behind closed doors at the court, the book, A Time for Truth, lays all that out with as much candor as humanly possible.
And by the way, the senator will have a two-stop bookstore today. You'll be at Sam's Club on South Rice at 10:30, and off to Books A Million in Katy at 3 o'clock. So the book tour, A Time for Truth, two stops in Houston, Sam's Club, 5310 South Rice at 10:30, Books A Million in Katy at 3 o'clock. You write in one of the verses, and we talk about this a lot, you're one of the few people who what you said on the campaign trail, you're doing. A lot of others, they talk when they get there, it's like they get into that big mahogany room, they give in a brandy, a cigar, there's a guy rubbing their back, and they say, hey, Ted, I know what you said on the trail, but this is how you're going to vote.
Look, I mean, that's exactly right. It's why people are so frustrated. They're so fed up with Washington. A lot of what I talk about in the book, A Time for Truth, is what I call the Washington cartel, which is career politicians, Democrats and Republicans, who get in bed with lobbyists and giant corporations, and they become one giant party, the Washington Party, that isn't listening to the American people. And no matter who's in power, the federal government gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Spending goes more and more and more. The debt gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Regulations grow and grow and grow. And our liberty recedes. And the only way to stop it is to break the Washington cartel, and that can only happen from the grassroots, from we the people. I think that is the path to turning the country around, is a grassroots movement, just like we saw in 1980 in the Reagan Revolution.
Where is, by the way, Senator Ted Cruz joining us on the Sam Malone Show. Where is Mitch McConnell in this cartel? Is he a mid-level guy, a captain? Is he way up top? Is he an executive officer?
Well, he is obviously the majority leader in the United States Senate, and his sentiments towards me have not been terribly positive nor terribly secret. Listen, one of the things I try to do in the book is not target anyone individually, and there's a reason for that. I mean, I describe, for example, in absolute candor what Republican leadership does, but I deliberately use that generic term because it gives the opportunity for redemption. It gives the opportunity for individual senators to choose to behave differently and to start honoring the commitments they made to the men and women who elected them. That's the disconnect, is that what politicians say on the trail, they don't do.
Right.
And the way to change that is to change the rules in Washington. There's an old joke, Sam, that politics is Hollywood for ugly people.
That's right. Well, I'm not. Well, you're on the phone. I'm not going to agree because you're on the phone.
well, my wife says I resemble that remark.
No. But go ahead.
If you want to change the rules in Washington, you've got to make it politically more risky for politicians to do the wrong thing than it is to do the right thing. And you do that by growing a grassroots movement. And we come out of 2016 with a mandate that every politician can't ignore, even if the Washington money and cartel would rather they do otherwise.
Senator Ted Cruz, our great friend, GOP candidate for president. But Ted, I'm not Mitch McConnell, but if I was, I would want a Ted Cruz in the party who motivates and inspires the younger people out there, who tells the truth, who's a fire breather, who's not afraid of a fight, who's masterful when it comes to taking people out with words. I would want you to be the superstar.
Well, but see, the problem is, Sam, you're assuming that leadership wants to win the fights.
Ooh,
they're all part of the same party. We had last week 2 horrendous decisions from the Supreme Court, the Obamacare decision and the marriage decision. Both were naked judicial activism. Both were lawless. The first one, they rewrote federal law and ignored the text of the law in order to force that failed law on millions of Americans, hurting millions of Americans. And the second one, they ignored the text of the Constitution and struck down, or purported to strike down, the marriage laws of all 50 states. Here's the sad truth. There are more than a few Republicans in Washington who issued statements that were somewhat critical of the ruling, who were privately celebrating, who were privately popping champagne because they agree with those decisions. More than a few 2016 Republican presidential candidates feel the same way, put out with regards to the marriage statement. They put out statements that said effectively, it's the law of the land, it's settled, surrender, accept it, move on. Those are word for word the talking points of Barack Obama. There's something profoundly wrong when Republican presidential candidates are repeating Barack Obama's talking points.
Very sad. Ted Cruz joining us on the show. A Time for Truth. His new book is out. Sam's Club today on South Rice at 10:30. Books a Million in Katy at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And that whole debacle that happened on Thursday was just the first shot in the war against religion. And I'm sure your dad, who's a well-known preacher, must feel targeted, because if you come out and talk about the absolute value of marriage, man plus woman equals marriage, you are now a target. And your business could be a target of a lawsuit, and you could be a target of harassment. It's the first day of many bad days coming.
You are exactly right. We have never seen religious liberty more under assault. We have never seen a more concerted persecution of Christians and people of faith from the federal government than we're seeing right now. And I'll tell you one of the most ominous aspects of the marriage decision. During the oral argument, Justice Alito asked the Solicitor General for the Obama administration. If you win, if the Obama administration wins and the court strikes down the marriage laws of every state, is the next step for the Obama IRS to go after Christian colleges and universities, Christian grade schools, Christian charities, and potentially even Christian churches, and for that matter, Jewish synagogues or Mormon temples, or even Muslim mosques, anyone who believes in a traditional teaching of marriage as the union of one man and one woman, and the answer from the Obama administration to whether the IRS could target those who follow a biblical teaching of marriage was yes, that is a very real possibility.
That is sad. Senator Ted Cruz joining us on the Sam Malone Show, AM 1070, The Answer. Let me get to this topic, and I brought this up. When you announced your campaign, you said, I'm running for president. The very next day, you went in to the Garden of Danger. You went on CBS News with Norah O'Donnell, and we watched it. What went behind the decision to go into enemy territory like that? By the way, you were masterful. They were flustered when she kept saying, she said 3 times in 45 seconds, are you the most conservative candidate? Are you the most conservative? I'm like, shut up, let him talk. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, look, at the end of the day, virtually all of the mainstream media are hardcore liberal partisans. And anyone that doesn't understand that when they go on their shows, anyone that doesn't understand that their objective is to defeat conservatives and to elect Hillary Clinton, doesn't understand who they're dealing with.
Good job.
That being said, they have a megaphone, and I'm going to take advantage of the megaphone to communicate to the millions of Americans who are frustrated, who are fed up, who understand the media is lying to them, or understand that far too many politicians are lying to them. You know, the thing you hear most frequently as you travel the country is elected politicians aren't listening to us. You hear that from Republicans, from Democrats, from independents, from libertarians. I could not be more encouraged by a presidential campaign, Sam, because we are seeing an incredible army of courageous conservatives come in. You know, in just a couple of months, we've seen over 100,000 people in all 50 states go online to tedcruz.org, contribute online, sign up to volunteer. We're seeing energy and enthusiasm, and that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a grassroots movement from the people.
That's rock and roll. Ted Cruz. I like that they don't know who they're going to tangle with. You went on with Katie Couric. An interesting thing, every Wednesday at 8 o'clock, Ted, we talk about Article 5 of the Constitution, Convention of States. Every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. A woman named Tamara Colbert and I talk about it. Katie Couric brought it up with you in her Yahoo interview.
She did, and I will say, look, Katie is perfectly pleasant to deal with in person, but her politics are not difficult to discern. And at our event last night, I think I had 5 or 6 people come up and say they just loved watching Katie's expression when I answered her and defended conservative principles in the Constitution with a smile. And I think my favorite exchange was when she started going down the birther route. And I reminded her, I said, remember, the entire birther thing was originated by Hillary Clinton's campaign in the primary.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure she visibly twitched when I said that. You're not supposed to point such things out.
And you said it with such a smile, though. Like I said, we as broadcasters could learn from you, a United States Senator, on how to handle the person who's trying to trap you. And you're either it's great recon or great prep or both, Senator. You handle it with a wonderful, masterful smile at the end. And that's what got Norah O'Donnell in a tizzy, and that's what probably got Katie Couric in a tizzy.
Well, look, it's the nice thing when you're speaking the truth. One of the virtues of that, it's a lot easier to remember.
That's right.
If you just tell people what you think and you don't try to embellish or spin or hide it, you're not trying to politic. I'm a big believer that good policy is good politics. And you mentioned what I've tried to do in my time in office. It's really been 2 things. Number 1, tell the truth. And number 2, do what I said I would do. And, we should expect that from every elected official. I mean, our girls are 4 and 7. I expect both Caroline and Catherine to tell the truth and do what they said they would do. And yet it says something that those are considered radical acts in Washington, D.C. That shows just how corrupt that town is.
I know. You're a rebel. You're a rebel, Cruz. Why? Because I'm doing what I said I would do? Not on. That's out of control. A Time for Truth. is the book. Let's see. He's got his book signing at Sam's Club in about 40-ish minutes. 10:30 this morning, 5310 South Rice. 3 o'clock this afternoon in Katy. I got to do this because Alexa Henning sent me this note to make sure I mention the stores, and I want to make Alexa happy for setting up the interview, Ted. I appreciate it.
Well, great, and we'll be pulling into Sam's Club very shortly, and then Book the Million in Katy at 3 o'clock. And thank you. God bless you. Thanks for speaking the truth, Sam, every day.
I'm a big fan. I'm voting for you, and keep doing what you're doing. You inspire us, okay, Senator?
Thank you, my friend.
Have a great day. Senator Ted Cruz. Sam Malone Show, AM 1070, The Answer.